Thank you and welcome everybody. In this session, I'm going to go over the new compact structure inventory and inspection framework that we have implemented for NYSDOT. I've been working with NYSDOT team for more than a year now, and we have used this system for two assets, retaining wall and noise barrier. For those of you who don't know, NYSDOT is one of our largest implementations, if not the largest, and they have the whole asset management suite. They have roadmapped the implementation. They have started with the bridge inspection system, moved to pavement, and then next step for them was structure management system, and this framework is part of the structure management system. One more point is this framework is not live yet, but is very close to wrap up, so I'm going to be able to show a lot of the stuff that will go into the final implementation. And the focus is going to be on the retaining wall asset, retaining wall as an asset that was targeted here. Okay, when we started this project, NYSDOT had bridge inspector and bridge management minus the bridge analyst system in place. So why not use the same framework for all other assets or structures that are NYSDOT managing? The answer is simple, because under structure management system, they have a wide variety of assets or structure types ranging from very large and complex structures like bridges and large culverts and overhead sign structures, which are, they have their own strict and specific guidelines of inventory and maintenance and inspection, and basically they need their own system and framework for management. So just to give you an idea, for example, for our bridge management system, we have a system that has 9 or 10 major windows like this. And again, to get the flavor of it, there are a whole bunch of tabs and panes involved, with all bells and whistles to give the user what they need to manage these structures. And on the other side of the spectrum, we have other assets which are much simpler, like guardrails, small culverts, and drainage structures. These assets, they need a simple inventory and then performance tracking, and NYSDOT has categorized them and has put them as a third category. They are sitting in our MMS module, and they are maintained and managed there. There is a gap between these two categories that is going to be covered by the framework that we introduced. And in that category, we have so far we have two assets. One is retaining walls, and the other one is noise barrier. There are guidelines regarding inventorying and management and inspection of these assets in place, but they are obviously not as strict as guidelines that are in place for bridges, overhead sign structures, and those kind of stuff. So, as I said, to respond to this need, we needed to create a new framework. We couldn't simply trim down or tweak the old framework and use it for a different purpose. This new framework needs to support three major processes, basically: the inventory management, inspection management, and basically work request process and management. NYSDOT has chosen to have a work request process as a part of MMS implementation, but I have tweaked this environment for the purpose of demo today and added issue work requests so you guys can see how it works in conjunction with inventory and inspection management. Okay, under formerly bridge management system or bridge inspection system, which is now going to be structure management at the time of go live. We have a section called secondary assets, and under that we have retaining wall and noise barrier. For each of those assets, we have a single window design to manage both inventory and inspection. And when you enter that window, in this case for retaining wall, you will see what is currently being shown on the screen. And on the left-hand side, there is a navigation pane that everything is pretty much controlled from that pane by selecting an asset or retaining wall from the navigation pane. All the right-hand side pane, which are inventory, inspection, and work request panes, are going to be filtered down, and the information related to that selected asset is going to be only shown. We have a bunch of customized functionalities on this navigation pane, which are customized to NYSDOT, and then our generic functionalities, which are available in the product. Insert-like, and a custom delete functionality for just deleting asset record with all its children, like inspections, photos, and stuff like that. These are all customized for NYSDOT due to many reasons. For example, on insert, they need to auto-populate certain information on the record based on who is logging in and which admin unit you're logging into. So these are customized. The first three are customized right-click options for NYSDOT, and then we have our general ones like setting a bookmark, showing an asset on map, which I'm going to get into detail of that, and typical find, filter, sort functionalities. So when you select your asset on the left-hand side, then you move to the next step, which is one of the three main tabs that we have on the right-hand side. It starts with inventory, and inventory has its own sub-tabs, and I'm going to describe them in detail. Inventory detail is where typically all the custom client-specific fields and based on the client needs and requirements are stored. And some of them are just for information, recording information, and some of them are tied to some processes in our system. For example, in the case of retaining wall, monitoring a retaining wall, if it has a certain conditions, is a very important thing. So we have a flagging option there, or basically marking a checkbox that brings in certain kind of functionalities in place. And also we have a functionality or tab that controls a field that controls a functionality that is the wall position field. Based on the selection of the wall position, different geometry information can be captured and stored in the system. We also have a single level QC process implemented for secondary assets. And it is a guided workflow that you can see the buttons on top. It has 5 different steps. It starts with inserting an asset into the system. The asset will be inserted in a new input and process state, and then it will, as the user or inspector decides to move it forward with submittal to quality control and then approval or rejection, the asset or record status is going to get changed, and the QC process is going to happen. Okay. Oh, okay. So we have this show on map functionality. In this, NYSDOT is going live, and this software is going in this module is going live on our version 7. We have show on map functionality on both navigation pane and inventory detail pane for the asset, and basic functionality is just to show an asset on our regular asset spotting framework, and then based on the licensing for the base map that is purchased, the base map can change to Google Map or Bing Map, and then obviously functionalities of those frameworks are going to come into place. Let's say in this case, spotting the asset and just having a street view of it on the screen. In version 7.2, as many of you have noticed during other presentations, our mapping functionality is going to be interactive. And one more thing about mapping and location of assets is that in this framework we support both location systems for these secondary assets. We have a special, it supports lat, long, XYs, and we also have LRS, route, mile point, from, and to, which special is going to be the major one. It is entered and kept as the master record, and the LRS ones are calculated automatically from special information. So in our QC process, basically in a single window without changing a window, we put all the records on a lockdown when a record is submitted for QC after the error check process. It's going to be locked down when it goes through the QC. Nobody can change any information on that record other than information in this tab that you see, which is inventory edit review comments, which is used for comments back and forth between the reviewer and the person who has actually submitted the record for quality control. This is a permanent log of all the comments throughout the QC, and either it can stay as like that, or we have a system job that can, if it is run or scheduled to run frequently, it can delete comments that are older than certain date range. We have two levels of error check in the system. One is the generic error check that we have as part of our product upon entry error check when let's say you want to enter an alphanumeric value into a numeric field, the system will throw an error, or if it is an integer field, you're putting a decimal value in it, and those kind of errors are captured right upon entry. But there is a higher level of error check, which is more conceptual. Let's say if you have a rule in place that if a wall is monitored and there is no responsible party assigned, then such and such field must be filled with this date, with this date range, and these kind of values. These can't be captured in our general error check platform, so we've designed a custom error check that basically will capture those kind of errors, list them with the order of priority, and tag them as critical, or if they are warning, and it will show you that basically where this error is happening, and basically what is the detail of the error. This part is coming, this part is also available in BDIS, so we are tweaking it and using it here, and basically borrowing it from there. Capturing the geometry of the wall, as I mentioned, in the inventory detail tab, we have a field that you identify geometry of the wall, and based on that selection over there, system allows you to put in the geometry of that certain geometry in sub-tabs of the wall geometry tab. So if it is a tier wall or below road wall, above road wall, certain geometric parameters should be captured, and the rest of them will be grayed out. And also on the left-hand side, you see that we have a static image that helps inspector to go in field and basically capture all the details that it should be. It can be blown out and moved around, used more effectively by them. We have a specific inventory photo tab instead of our standard attachment manager functionality in the system. This is again custom to NYSDOT because they wanted to be able to see thumbnail of all photos and inventory photos and browse through them. So we developed it this way. The functionality is not that different. The look and feel is different, and basically the same functionalities that are available on attachment manager: download, insert, local file, update file, delete, and just changing the order of files is available. There is a little custom part here that, as a part of QC, I mentioned we can lock down records during the QC and release them after the QC. As a part of this part of the implementation, we have added a functionality to lock down adding and removing attachments as well. Later on, NYSDOT chose to turn that functionality off for now, so attachments are gone back to the original functionality that we had in the system. But we have now the functionality of, if we turn on that functionality, we can just lock down the attachments and remove all or adding as well. Again, another tab for recording contents which are not photos or those kind of contents. They're very specific. We want to keep them in a separate place, like if there's a federal report which is for noise barrier, or if there's a specific monitoring report for retaining walls. They didn't want it to get lost as part of attachments and photos in the photo tab. So we had to design a specific tab as a content library. Each content will have its own content ID and content type. Types of content are controlled centrally in the department, so only certain content are allowed here. And then the header record will have the description, and obviously the attachment is going to happen. If the content record is a location identifier and it is that location identifier field is marked as yes, then that content or contents of that record will be pulled into inspection report, the detailed inspection report. That's pretty much all we have on inventory side. When we move to inspection side, sorry, that's a question? Okay. When we move to the inspection side, again, the navigation pane of the asset stays the same on the left-hand side, and we have the history of all inspections sorted from the newest one to the oldest one on the top pane, and then at the bottom we have 4 sub-tabs, which are general inspection, element condition status inspection, photos and sketches, and then inspection, edit, review, comments. The QC process that we have designed for inspection works in conjunction with inspection, edit, review, comments tab, and is exactly the same as inventory QC process, but it is completely independent of that, meaning that you need to go through QC process for each inspection record, regardless of the QC process of the asset itself. And so I'm not going to describe inspection QC, just in the interest of time here. Other tabs, general element level inspection, and basically the specific inspection photos tab I'm going to describe in detail. So in general inspection tab, minimum information needed for an inspection is recorded, inspection ID, date, who is the inspector, who's going to receive the notifications for this inspection, and like work recommendation, inspector notes if there's any access need, and those stuff are recorded here. And also, NYSDOT decided to have an overall condition rating value at the general level, which is the weighted average of element rating condition states that feeds this field here. At the element level inspection, which didn't exist for secondary asset, and it was a proactive move on NYSDOT's side to implement it. Basically, there's no guideline, no mandate to do element level inspection for secondary asset at this time, but NYSDOT decided that they want to do it with the same ASHTO structure that they have it for primary assets. And so as a result, we have relatively the same structure implemented. So when you come to element level inspection, basically, and you insert an inspection, all the elements, the total quantities, and the measure of units are going to be pre-populated from last approved inspection. And inspectors just need to go through the inspection and fill out the actual current condition state values, and they can put the comments, and also they can edit the elements if they want. They can insert a new one if there is a change, or take out one if there is a change. So elements are going to come from a standard hierarchical list of that is set basically at the headquarter level. And like, for example, for retaining wall, they currently have 5 elements that needs to be inspected and are in the system. So on the first field on the left is a list of elements inspector can choose from. Although this element level inspection information is not mandatory, it basically has proven to be very useful and very useful reports can be produced out of it. When we got into the reporting section, we have reports that, like, for example, are extracted from this information. If asset manager wants to know how many retaining walls of this type they have on an interstate that has foundation in condition state 3 and below, these kind of valuable inspection reports can be extracted from this information. Again, we implemented a custom tab for NYSDOT inspection photos. In this setting, which is a sub-tab of inspection, every photo needs to have its own header, which with order, description, and the file name, which is going to be automatically populated, and who uploaded the photo and the date. And on the right-hand side, you will see the photo. These photos will be pulled into the inspection report in the order that is identified on the right-hand side. And last, when you're done with the inspection, basically the inspector can go ahead and, based on the needs, issue a work request. The work request basically is inserted into the third tab, and then the status of the work request is set. Who is the responsible party, activity, work request type, if it's a routine, emergency, or whatever the type of the work request is, and then the description and toward the end they can link it to the one of the open inspections of the asset, or they can just not do that and leave it as an independent work request there. When they do that, this work request will be seen in our MMS module, which is a maintenance management module, and will be picked there. And then maintenance personnel can issue a work order and do the work and close the work order. And as a result, the work request is going to be completed. And this whole link is going to be part of the permanent record of the asset. So in this framework, we have identified 3 reports that we think, based on our back and forth with NYSDOT, is going to cover all we have in the framework. One is our standard inventory report. It's details is a standard tabular report of inventory table, and then we have a combined inspection report, a tabular inspection report that goes down to the level of element and lowest level of detail. And then also we have the inspection Jasper report, which looks into each inspection in full details. Again, there is no restriction in adding reports to this framework. Like for noise barrier, we have a federal report that is sent every 3 years to feds. That's a separate report that we've set it up for them. But in general setting of the framework, these 2 reports cover different aspects of it. Let's see if I can show, for those of you who haven't seen, like, break it. So this is our standard tabular report. Then, again, for those who are new to our system, our inspection, our general inventory report and general tabular inspection report are in this format. Basically, a list of all the fields that you select and then a subset of data that you want to see. Okay, it's not going back to slide mode. It should be an extended mode, right?
Is that good?
Yeah, that works. And again, the Jasper report. Sorry, we didn't have the retaining wall one ready, but the structure is relatively the same with the noise barrier. I have the one that is ready for noise barrier shown here. It is a fixed format report that you just pass in the inspection parameter, and it will basically capture all the detail of that inspection for you. It starts with the inventory information and then some of the inspection information. It goes into detail if there's any location identifier like map, element level inspections, and any specific photos to inspection. Okay. Some of the key features and added value of this design from a user interface perspective. It's a single window design. We used to do this kind of stuff in multiple windows, like the RQC process by passing the asset from a window to window to be able to do that. It is a single window design. Everything is inventory inspection and work request is handled in a window. It is easy and intuitive to use. All the steps are automated and the user can see all the buttons, fields, and all that they need to work with in a single window, so it's really hard to get confused and get lost in this window. It is also not training and support intensive implementation as a result of being a single window design and being able to basically pack all that is needed for these kind of assets in a single window. It is supportable by our mobile solutions. We are in the process of implementing that for NYSDOT. And from organizational perspective, now that NYSDOT has gone through all the steps and back and forth of hammering out this framework, it is readily available and can be replicated for multiple assets in the same category. As a result, it creates consistency between different assets. So if somebody is working for noise barrier and retaining wall and similar assets, they don't have to learn different frameworks. And also, the implementation of it is really cost efficient. The level of effort after it has been designed is not too high, and training and support is also not too extensive, which will result in cost reduction. There are some limitations associated with this design, which I want to point out. Number of security roles that can be captured on a single window design was a challenge, I should say, for those of you who are available with technicalities of our system. Number of windows in a system is what gives us room to maneuver in creating multiple security roles. We were able to create 3 different security roles, which is data lookup, basically asset insert, asset and inspection insert and update, and then another level, which is asset manager, who can do all those stuff plus approval and rejection of the record. We had room for 2 more security roles, but in a single window design, that's a limitation that whoever is going down this route should be aware of. Number and complexity of the business rule. If we didn't have any problem, we resolved some of our issues by changing some business processes, and a lot of business rules, complex business rules were implemented without any issue. But if you start getting too fancy about those, then it might create some sort of performance drags. The point that I want to mention is the framework works very well for that category of asset that it is targeted for. If you choose the asset that the set of assets that are going to fall under this category right, then you shouldn't have any problem with number of security roles and also the quantity and quality of business rules that you need to implement at that level in this framework. And one more feature of this framework is that it's very flexible, and you can use it on the high end of the spectrum as a very heavy design, or just start stripping off different functionalities without hurting the structure of the framework, and use it on the lighter end of the spectrum. Some of the functionalities that can be removed here are custom insert like custom find that we did for NYSDOT, that custom delete functionality. If you don't really need it, it can be removed. Batch error check, if you don't have something to that complex to that level, it is not tied to the system the way that you can take it out. Inventory QC process is not mandatory. And also record locking mechanism. If you are, for example, you have 2 people in that division that are working, you don't have to lock down the record necessarily in the QC process. So that can be taken out, and as a result, preview inspection, and also we have a functionality to preview the inspection report on the fly in the inspection screen. That can be taken out as well. I mean, obviously, you can access those reports in our report window. That's an extra functionality. And there are some custom tabs. As you saw, for example, inventory photo tab can be removed and easily replaced with our general attachment functionality. A structured geometry, again, it really depends on the organization needs. Content library, can look into it to make the design lighter. Inventory edit review and inspection edit review goes hand in hand with the QC process, and element level inspection and inspection photos and sketches tab are also not an essential part of the framework. So the moral of this story is it's a very flexible framework. You need to know the assets that you're going to put in that category and the requirements for those, and then tune the framework based on your own needs in your own organization. I want to take this opportunity and thank folks in NYSDOT like SMEs and their analyst team that have been working with us very closely over past almost a year, and to hammering out this design. It wouldn't be possible without those guys' help. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amir. Does anybody have any questions for Amir? Okay.
I was just curious, does it require the bridge module, or could it be added to meetings?
No, it doesn't need a bridge module. It can be added to, basically by changing the module ID on the asset, it can be added to any other framework. One more comment on that. Basically, originally, small culverts in NYSDOT was supposed to be under the same framework under bridges, which is going to be structures. Then they decided they want the same framework relatively. Then they decided to move it to MMS. So changing this framework between modules is not an issue.
I certainly appreciate the standardization and consistency across assets. Can you describe a little bit about when they're out in the field taking pictures, how that mechanism of getting those pictures into the system, I mean,
Yeah.
is it automatically, each picture is tied to a certain asset automatically, or do they sometimes they have to get back in the office and do some stuff?
No, I mean, this framework is supportable by our standard mobile solutions, and that is typically covered under FDC or whatever mobile solution an organization choose to do so. The configuration is a bit different. So basically, when they do even upload the photo in FDC and upload the record, photos are going to come automatically with the record.
Or zip files, so you can upload one zip file with multiple pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, that certainly makes it easier. Anybody else?
So for the location, you're using a lat long and the length of the asset?
Can you repeat that, Amir? If you, oh, hey, Derek.
Okay.
I was saying for the location, you're using a lat long and the length of the asset?
Okay, very good question. We needed to support both for NYSDOT because they initially decided that what we're going to go for these new implementations are the GPS lat long setting. And then a lot of their other information is tied to the LRS system, so they couldn't go without that one either. So we are going with the lat long that is coming from a shapefile, and then we are also automatically calculating route ID mile point. For this asset retaining wall, only mile point because it's a point asset, but for noise barrier, since it's a linear asset, we're going to do mile point from and mile point to.
And also an LRS reference. So we've got both.
Yeah, basically both systems are supported.
Okay, so you'll be doing like a detail table, a detail location table under that? So like, you know, where we have invent debt under that, so that, I guess, to support roads and highways?
For retaining wall, that's not the plan. For noise barrier, it is.
Okay.
Do they really think that AASHTO or FHWA or at some point is going to require element level on those type of structures? Is that, I mean, I know they're preparing for it, but I don't really see that as something that they're going to push really hard for.
Well, that was a Steve vision that if those guys start to implement some sort of guideline, we just want to have some sort of framework in place that with minor tweak, we can just get to that point.
So it's just more to anticipate.
Yes,
just in
it's a
case. Okay.
proactive move.
More, sorry, more to the point, they wanted that one way to the one inspection. So, NYSDOT wanted to have a consistent way across all different assets to do the inspection, no matter what the feds are dictating. Obviously, they're dictating the bridges, so that's the one they picked.
And one point, they are not mandating element level at this step. It is optional because there were some pushes, obviously, from the inspection side. But if it becomes a guideline, then they have a framework and they can mandate it.
Always good to be looking forward. Any other questions or comments? Oh, Pascal. Get ready, this is going to be deep.
Yeah, that's going to be a difficult one. I should have paid this guy.
Now, so are they going to go back and take a look at the BDIS and put some of these features back into the BDIS framework, or like the bridge inspection windows and multiple windows and all?
I'm not sure which one of it BDIS doesn't have, really. I mean, but yeah, the geometry, I don't know if, I don't know.
The single window design, are they? No.
Oh, the single window, no. I mean, I showed the slide at the beginning. So this can't be simplified. I mean, like something like bridge can't be simplified to the extent that you can have everything in a single window. They currently have 10 windows with, I don't know, many tabs and panes on it, those windows. So this is for a specific category of assets. I mean, it's just not one size fits all solution.
In secondary assets, we don't have stage editing. That's why we can handle it in single window. But in other primary assets, since we need stage editing, we have to have multiple windows.
I wish everything could be single window. Be a hell of a window, right? All right, everybody, thank you to Amir.